to get in the Denver metro area?
There's urban, rural, and frontier, and South Park is the frontier area. I'm the chief of South Park Ambulance District. And currently there's no primary care anywhere in Park County. So we're the only medical providers at this point.
The last family practice in South Park closed in 2014. So we had no doctors, we had no pharmacy, we didn't have any, we really had nothing. And when I say to people we had nothing, I mean we had nothing.
Healthier Colorado, they were very helpful to us when we were proposing an increase in our mill levy last May. Where they assisted us was in providing funding so that we could do advertising to the public, which is really tough up here. There's no TV, there's no radio.
We decided that the only way we were going to be able to make the clinic we had work was by getting some type of subsidy. And that came in the form of sales tax, a 10% sales tax. And Healthier Colorado stepped in and saved us, told us what to do, how to do it, provided funding, and we were incredibly successful. We passed at 72%.
The mill levy passed. So this is going to allow us to add a third crew. And for the public at large, it's going to decrease our response times, which is going to have a huge impact for them. And then additionally, what we want to institute is a community paramedic program.
Most of the people that live in South Park love it here, and they don't want to leave. What they have done has enabled us to provide the services to keep the community healthy. And with the addition of the South Park ambulance, we have a fighting chance. We have a fighting chance.
I organize for a Healthier Colorado.
I share my story for a Healthier Colorado.
I legislate for a Healthier Colorado.
I testify for a Healthier Colorado.
I fight for a Healthier Colorado.
I've built a team for a Healthier Colorado.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Courtney Cuff, and I have the privilege of serving as the board chair for Healthier Colorado. I'm here tonight to enlist you in the battle to build a movement for health. Not long ago, I had the honor of serving as the CEO of the Gill Foundation, excuse me, an organization designed to advance LGBTQ equality. There were many smart leaders fighting for equality. But the special sauce was the movement that was created on behalf of LGBTQ people. The moms, the firefighters, the CEOs, the neighbors, the co-workers, the Democrats and the Republicans pushing hard for change. Movements matter. And Healthier Colorado is leading the charge to build a robust movement for health. Our organization has a team of amazing staff and a universe of growing members, 58,000 members throughout the state, making big strides for health. This year alone, Healthier Colorado helped pass a dozen local ballot initiatives, things like modernizing emergency medical response in rural areas to reduce response time and help save lives. Things like adding critical mental health support in San Miguel County and helping communities raise the age to purchase tobacco so kids don't get hooked in the first place. These wins are thanks to your support, and your donations tonight will help turbo boost this growing movement for health to do even more. We want a state that's leading the nation in policy change and catalyzing a national movement for health. This year, Healthier Colorado backed 51 elected leaders who come January will be poised to do great things for health in our state. But we can't expect them to do it alone. In order to build enduring support for health, we must organize and engage Coloradans across the state to demand change, to encourage our electeds to take the action we want and need, and hold them to account in the event they fall short. Your contributions will help power this Army and pave the way for expanded access to affordable, high-quality health care. Bring robust physical education programming for kids and stem substance abuse in our state. You've got two really easy ways to make future wins possible. Get your phone out and go back to that silent auction item you've been checking, but this time you're not bidding, instead you're hitting the make a donation button. Or you can fill out the donation card on your table. This is your chance to fuel our movement. And after an election where healthcare was the #1 issue nationwide, now is the time to make it happen. Your donation today means Healthier Colorado can keep building and keep the pressure on. There's no time to wait. Donate. Okay, so that's enough of me. Time for Healthier Colorado's phenomenal executive director and my friend Jake Williams and our honored guests tonight, Baratunde and Belinda Thurston. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Courtney, and thanks to the entire board of Healthier Colorado and the Fund for a Healthier Colorado for your leadership. If you are a board member or a staff member of Healthier Colorado, could you please stand? Give them a hand. All right, sit down. Except for three people. The three people who I want to remain standing are Andrea and David and Luna. Are you out there? So, these three young folks are our advocacy fellows. They've been with us for about a year, and this is their last day on the job. So I just wanted to point them out and give them some special recognition. So if you would, just one more hand for these three extraordinary people. We've covered a lot of ground in these last 4 short years, and it's really been only because of this team that's been built around me, and I'm thankful every single day. But before I move on in the program, I have to ask a personal favor of you. There's a little girl in this room. Her name's Marlo. She's my daughter. It's her 6th birthday today. Marlo, can you come up here? So, instead of being able to be home and playing with her new toys or eating even more cake, I drag her here to this boring gathering of adults. And so to somewhat make up for it, I was hoping that you could help me sing happy birthday to her. Can you do that? All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Marlo. Happy birthday to you. All right, let's get back to business. I'm going to tell you now a little bit about the sibling dynamic duo that is Belinda and Baratunde Thurston, our featured guests. Then they're both going to come up here and we're going to have a little combo that you all get to eavesdrop on. Belinda Thurston is the founder of Just Be Yoga and Tai Chi, Michigan's only full-time donation-based yoga studio. The studio is a safe space with a mission of accessibility and affordability and is best known for its support of the LGBTQIA community, plus-size students, and trauma survivors. Belinda began this endeavor after retiring from 23 years in the newspaper industry, specializing in multimedia, digital, and investigative journalism. She worked at newspapers including the Dallas Morning News and USA Today. Her brother, Baratunde, is a futurist comedian, that's the thing apparently, a writer and cultural critic who helped relaunch The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, worked as the digital director for The Onion, and co-founded the Black political blog Jack and Jill Politics. He also wrote, this is so long, and he's a year, so in my self-absorption I'm reading this, and he's a year older than me. He's done like 50,000 times more things than me. He also wrote a New York Times best-selling book, How to Be Black. He advised the Obama White House and serves on the National Board of Build, an organization that uses entrepreneurship-based experiential learning to propel underserved youth through high school and on to college and career success. Please give a warm welcome to our guests, Baratunde and Belinda Thurston.
Microphone on. Yo. Hello. Give it up for that video, though.
The video was awesome.
And then you want to be healthy in Colorado.
I do. I want to move to Colorado to be
Yeah,
healthy.
just be super healthy here. Greatest.
Thanks again. Whoa, this doesn't work.
Turn that on.
Yeah, power switch.
There you go.
The first test.
So I knocked over the award, first of all, and then I started speaking without the microphone on, so this is out to a swimming
That's
start.
because you challenged my futurist comedian title.
I know.
That was a get back, is what we call it in the business.
I know, I deserve it, I deserve
Throwing
it.
shade in your intro.
Yeah. I will say that we're both wearing sneakers, but I think mine are a little bit cooler.
We're gonna lift your
I
foot?
think yours look comfortable, Jake.
Oh, comfortable being a euphemism for
Yeah.
not cool.
So this isn't the script that we discussed before we
This is real now.
Yeah. So, I read your book.
Great.
And you know, the thing that struck me about your life is the duality. On the one hand, you went to the prestigious Sidwell Friends school in Washington, D.C., where Chelsea Clinton went and the Obama kids went. So you had that experience on the one hand, but on the other, your father was murdered when you were 6 in a drug deal gone bad. You went to Harvard, but you had to clean bathrooms in order to make that work. And the duality fascinated me, but I'm frankly not going to ask you about your duality. I became even more interested in your sister's duality actually when I was reading the bio, because how do you go from being a journalist for over 2 decades to switching to yoga? What prompted you to do that?
Most of my managers and staff wanted the same thing. I actually had the longest resignation period. It was about 12 months after submitting my resignation before I was able to leave. Because my publisher, my executive editor was like, you want to do what? We were also in the midst of a big digital change and putting on this firewall and all kinds of stuff, and they needed me to do the work. I really have a huge passion for storytelling. I'm a big storyteller. Hang out with this guy, so that is a huge part of who I am. But after a while, you know, sitting in the lofty halls of being a journalist, where you have to be at arm's length from so many issues, I really started to feel as though I could make a better difference, and I would feel more whole within myself. So I would say self-fulfillment really led to wanting to kind of, what did Forrest Gump say to his mom? You know, Mama, what's my destiny? You know, I kind of felt like I needed to step toward that with a little bit more bravery and throw it down and see what I could do and provide. My studio was begun in the beginning of the recession, and it was greatly needed. I'm in Michigan. There were red-tagged houses everywhere. People were being laid off, and finding a way to feel whole when everything is falling apart around you, and if there was some way that I could be a part of that, I was really passionate about it.
Can I jump in on this answer too,
Yeah.
to help explain what I remember of that transition? Is my sister said to me, I feel more connected to my community in this yoga studio than I do in this newsroom. And for, you know, I consider newspapers to be in the realm of representative arts. We have a table full of representatives over here. They're isolated, kept together where we can see them, which is as it should be with politicians. You're always going to keep them right where you can see them. Table 4 would be elected table. Now we all know, right? But when you're charged with representing people, you need to be in touch with those people. And whether it's explicitly political, whether you're a business leader and you have products and jobs on the line, or whether in media and journalism and you're representing the hopes and dreams or fears and realities of a bunch of folks, you want to be close to them. And so I saw my big sister, who I looked up to, who's one of the only, I remember the stat was something like, there were 25 black assistant managing editors in the entire United States, not in the 1800s. This is in the 2000s, and she was one of them. And yet, she still found that the community connection was much stronger when dealing with the body and dealing with a studio that was accessible and open and inclusive in a way that the newsroom wasn't.
My transition was about 2 years. So I started the studio while I was still running newsrooms and video teams and websites and breaking news, and eventually I slowly weaned myself off of news and started to decide, okay, I'm torn because this thing keeps growing. So yoga kept growing, but more people knew me in the community, even though I had lived there. I lived there for 5 years. More people knew me as the yogi, as the person who was doing this donation-based yoga thing, then as the assistant managing editor, then as the digital news director of 3 newsrooms. So I just really felt like I was having a greater impact. I also was having a better connection with people who are working in social service agencies. I started having city council members, state legislators, because Lansing is the state capital, coming to yoga. Bipartisan. Yeah, coming to yoga. And just realizing that they knew me more as this person who cared about their holistic being and their holistic health, rather than seeing me as someone who could help them get their name in a headline.
And the last thing on this, our mother is the reason in many ways for containing these dualities. Right, I won't go into the full version, but she was, the reason that I could go to Harvard and also clean toilets at Harvard is because, my whole childhood we worked in soup kitchens. Belinda reminded me that our mother fitted out our basement to take in a homeless woman who lived with us for a while. And she took me and her, probably you even more than me, to marches. She also brought a computer home and introduced that technology, which has clearly powered both of our lives. Digital news director and director of digital for fake news.
I saw you walk around with an iPad in the hallway.
Well, the iPad's a great place to put your drinks as well. It's a good trade, as long as it's a case one. But I think our mother contained multitudes, and at least the way I articulate, she showed us that you can be all the things. That you can be grounded and down for the people, that you can cook quinoa, and get into Tai Chi too, and that's not a contradiction. That is completeness.
And so, one thing that you two have in common is that you both have stops in journalism along the way. And, you know, right now, journalism is going through transition.
He was really the fake news though.
He was,
Well,
yeah,
see, the
right.
fake news got a bad name now because satirical news. Let's call it satirical news.
In the old days, fake
Yeah,
news was
before fake news was really disinformation,
Okay,
propaganda,
gotcha.
and anti-democratic, destructive tendencies that undermine the very fabric of our society. You know, I wasn't involved in that version.
It's funny now, sometimes I see things on Twitter that I think are Onion headlines, and it turns out to be real. So we're in strange times indeed. But for real, at the Onion and other stops, including, I'd even say your podcast, which I want to talk to you about, you've both been in journalism, and journalism's really going through a transition and even turmoil. You know, these legacy outlets, especially newspapers, are shutting down or downsizing, and new projects are sprouting up. And at the same time, you have, you know, people, as you know, we just referenced at the highest levels of government saying that the press is the enemy of the people, and we have a proliferation of fake news. So I have two questions for you. Question one is, if you're a young person who wants to get into journalism, what advice would you have for them? And question two, small one, how do we save the free press?
I feel like the actual journalist should start with the first one.
So this is the real news,
The-
so you really are the fake
No,
news.
no, I said actual.
Just making sure.
Actual is a very subtle distinction. But you've coached and onboarded and trained so many actual young journalists. I would love your take on it. And I have some thoughts on this.
On the free press part. So for young journalists, I did a lot of recruiting, you know, at conferences, and I've spent a lot of time with students in colleges. I feel like I would rather than, okay, this is heresy, but don't major in journalism.
Are there any journalism majors in the room?
Sorry.
Change your life.
Don't major in journalism. Rather than study the history and the industry of journalism, learn something. Learn something and be passionate about something. Know what your passion is about that thing. And then be able to report on it. Know your community. Be embedded in your community. Be invested in your community. And then be able to write about it. I would love to see us develop something like an AmeriCorps or Peace Corps for journalists. Be able to go and sit inside of a community for a period of time and then actually re-up, like every 5 years or so. Don't just sit in your glass office. Don't just sit as some national White House correspondent. So yeah, Jim Acosta should go and have to spend like 6 months, 8 months, and really understand what's going on in our communities. Spend some time understanding the health impacts going on in South Park. Maybe drive a freaking ambulance or something, and learn what's going on the ground level, because we are so far distant. We keep an arm's length from our communities. And so, as far as I'm concerned, the way to get passionate, young, vibrant journalists who make an impact, they have to actually understand what's going on the ground level and get some dirt under their nails before they can write about it. Because we're coming out and we're seeking celebrity status, we're coming out trying to gain some sort of name for ourselves, but we're not really caring about the people that we say that we're representing. Journalism is a social service. You know, it's the only profession guaranteed under the First Amendment. It's the only profession in the Constitution. It is the true social service. So let's make it a social service. That's
What she said, a verbal retweet, basically. As far as the free press thing goes, I think I've been really dismayed at the amount of disinformation and propaganda that are passed off as actual journalism. The attacks on this support column of democracy. Right? We need people to be informed. We need to have some common square. We can do things out with a level of humanity and civility in it. So some ways to assure that, or at least to make it less horrible. I think the business model of journalism and media has to shift. I think that we've had this deal where the customer is actually not the user. And that's true in Facebook's case, and it's true in the media's case. The people paying for it are just paying for access to this audience to convince them to spend money on things mostly that they don't want or need. And as we get more digital, we get more precise in our ability to target and manipulate and influence and affect, such that I get stalked by slipper ads, at this point. And when you look at the media sites, and even the greatest news sites have like 12, 13 trackers on their website. The Washington Post motto is "Democracy dies in darkness." I'm like, it would start by shining a light on your trackers that you're using to stalk me. Like, I'm actually informing you in some ways more than you're informing me, so you can sell to whoever's buying these ads. So I think changing that underlying revenue model to make it more community supported, grant supported. I'm actually working with a new institution right now called The Correspondent, that they were operating in Holland for 5 years, crowdfunded, collaborative with their readers, getting beneath the surface of sensationalism. And just because something just happened doesn't mean it's news, right? News is important, and there are things that happen underneath the surface that explain our world, and it's constantly being bumped out by the latest sensational tweet, right? For example, so shifting that mindset, this team at The Correspondent has done it for 5 years in the Netherlands. They're going to try to bring it to English. It's one example. Republic is doing things. The Texas Tribune is doing it in a different way. And I think we need more diverse models to bring about a more sustained way of telling these stories that connect us to each other, which is what we're doing.
So another medium that's really exploded are podcasts. And I know you have a new one, but before we talk about yours, do you know about mine yet?
Jay!
You should check it out. It's called Wooden Teeth. You should subscribe, give us 5 stars. It's amazing. Check it out. Okay, so aside from my podcast, which is
amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, 5 stars.
Yeah. Tell me about your podcast.
Sure thing, Jay. Thanks so much for asking. It's such a natural conversation. You ever talk to a friend and they just promote their own podcast? You know that happens all the time. So I got a recent podcast called Spit. It's produced with iHeartMedia, which runs iHeartRadio, 850 radio stations, and 23andMe. And it's about DNA in theory. And it's actually, part of the reason I did it is because my sister did her DNA test. And then she asked me to do my own DNA test. We have different fathers, there were some mysteries.
Well, actually, we decided, he let me know he should do it, and that if it didn't say that we were related, then we knew it was bogus.
Right. And so we're related.
Okay, we are. It said that our mothers.
Yeah, our mother wasn't lying to us this whole time, which is a great deal. But I remember finding out, it was a very glorious moment when I found out that I was less Neanderthal than you.
Yes.
I literally took a screenshot of it, and it's a part of my show as I tour. I'm less Neanderthal than my older sibling.
But I think you're more white than I am.
I'm whiter than her.
Yes. The man who wrote the book on how to be black.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So we each got something out of the test. But the way the podcast works is we sit down with a musician, we sit down with a science and DNA expert, and we talk about issues related to who we are. So with Melissa Etheridge, we talked about adoption and parenting. What does it mean to be a parent? Even if there is no blood relation, there's still love and custom and tradition and support. That's a parent, right? So DNA doesn't just make us. We've talked with various artists, Wyclef and Nikki Sixx, about addiction and mental health and depression. There are genetic contributors to that, but there's also environment and who your friends are. And as you all know, the health of your overall environment. And so DNA not being destiny, but being an important contributor to it, and this sort of contribution of story and science to make up who we are, pretty much.
So if I'm selling this,
5-star pie.
I'm in Hollywood. I'm selling this like in a movie style.
Okay.
Is it like it's like the Henry Louis Gates thing on PBS, but
funnier.
There you go. All right, good. Yeah. All right. I dig it. So Baratunde has also written a book, How to Be Black, and my question for you, Belinda, given your health knowledge, is if you were to write a book,
Yes.
and I'm gonna presuppose a title for you. The title is How to Be Black and Healthy. How would it go?
It's probably not going to be that funny. He's infinitely funnier than I am.
That's fine.
Okay. I guess how to be Black and healthy is how to be holistically healthy. Baratunde brought up about our mother, and in many ways she modeled for us. Maybe intentionally, I would like to think it was unintentional, but you never know.
Yeah.
You know, she may have been actually plotting this all along, but that she modeled like a mama bear all the time about what is being healthy within our community structure, our neighborhood structure. Even though we were raised with just very little means, giving back was huge. So how to be healthy as a social component, how to be healthy culturally, how to be healthy, you know, food-wise. I mean, we certainly had our turkey Frankfurter Velveeta times.
Spam. Remember the Spam years?
I don't remember Spam, but you probably don't remember.
So she loved me less, clearly. I came after you, and I had Spam. How did that happen?
Yeah, but I also had like souse.
I don't even know what that is.
What's that?
Souse is like this gelatinous meat product.
That does not sound like food.
Okay, but it's real.
Yeah.
It's really real. And Scrapple, and you didn't get to have
I did not. I
Scrapple.
missed the
Yeah.
Scrapple period.
But then she evolved into growing soybean sprouts in the windowsill to putting peanuts in my spaghetti sauce. This is a really true story, and no child wants to crunch when they're eating spaghetti. To eventually, you know, reminding me that I should probably take some acidophilus and have some astragalus tea.
What? Some what?
Acidophilus? You really need good lactobacilli in your intestines.
I'll go
Healthier Colorado, right?
But so, besides getting into what we put into our bodies, which is important, and we have to look at our means and how much money we have and what we have access to, but that health is holistic. Health is community. Health is even ancestral. Health is how we treat one another. So I would say that being healthy, you know, how to be healthy and Black is how to be healthy communally, how to be healthy with one another. And that we need to incorporate all of those pieces.
Good luck.
Baratunde, I want to ask you about a couple prominent people you work with.
Okay.
All right. First one, Barack Obama. So when you were in the administration,
Whoa.
just let me roll with it. Just let me roll with it. When you were in the vicinity, how many cigarettes was he smoking a day? I won't tell anything.
I'm pretty sure Barack Obama's smoking more cigarettes now when he's president. See his legacy represented. So yeah, I did not serve in the administration. I did do some advising work for the White House. And I never saw the president smoke a cigarette. He kept that for something maybe Michelle could see once in a while to set him straight. But I do appreciate what that White House stood for in many ways. And the amount of expertise they brought in to that White House is a revolutionary idea to bring smart people into the White House. But they did that. People who knew more than you to advise on the decisions of the country.
I think a lot of people like him here because no one liked that joke at all.
It was too real. It was too real.
I'm just kidding. All right, so
Too soon.
yeah, I guess so. Trevor Noah. So there may or may not be some people on our staff who have a crush on Trevor Noah. I see one right back there. I see two right back there. Is there anything that you can tell us about Trevor Noah that would either enhance or diminish the crush that I have a crush on too, that we all have on Trevor Noah?
What a question. To enhance or diminish your crush on Trevor Noah. Never thought that was my purpose in life. But, you know, life comes at you fast. I will probably enhance your crush. I know it's painful because you will not be able to convert that crush into any actionable moves. There's low odds of becoming in relation with Trevor Noah. So I'll put you in more pain ultimately. But I will say that he had a very difficult job. Anyone who works on that show is a hard show. But when you inherit the legacy of someone who is considered by some to be almost a prophet, right? Jon Stewart was nearly worshipped by a big chunk of this country. And he could do no wrong in many people's eyes. And he had 20 years to establish that and create that and become himself with patience. Right? He wasn't the Jon Stewart we know when he first started. And so Trevor had to walk into that long shadow, and he didn't have his own people. He had John's staff, and he had a network mandate, and you couldn't stop the show to refashion it and make it better. Anyone who's worked in politics knows you can't shut down the government unless you're Ted Cruz. You can't shut down the government for like years to restructure it to make it more relevant to modern times. You got to renovate the ship while it's at sea. And so Trevor walked into that and managed to survive it. That's already a huge accomplishment in this short attention span, short, high stakes, unforgiving environment with billions of dollars on the line. The Daily Show is the biggest property of Comedy Central, which is a crown jewel of Viacom, which is a media company that has been in dire trouble. And I think the reason he was able to do that is because his life did not depend on the success of the Daily Show. He had a mother who was shot in the face by the man that she loved. He came from South Africa where his mere birth was illegal. And so the stakes for him were way higher already than Viacom's quarterly return. And so I think he was able to bear that weight because it maybe wasn't that heavy for him, because he'd actually been through the heavy stuff already. And that perspective is not one that I see people talking about when they reference him. They mostly reference the dimples, which are incredible.
Yeah,
They're some of the best dimples in the game. They're not implants, they're real dimples. Dimple implants are coming, if you didn't know that. But that's what I would offer. My most treasured perspective of Trevor is that.
Yeah, I want to ask you both a question, and I think we're running over, so keep it brief so I can get to one other thing. What is something that you know about one another that the rest of the world doesn't know, that you're willing to share with this small room of lovely people?
Well, I think that my brother thinks that I try to kill him.
Why don't you explain how
Well,
many almost died in your company?
So we have a certain span of time between us in age, and so I've kind of, been in, I have to take care of my little brother. So, sledding in the inner city can be a little rough.
Not a lot of greenery.
Not a lot of greenery,
No.
not a lot of sleds. But cardboard boxes, they work. So we may have crossed some intersections now and again as little people. And then that has evolved into riding our bicycles in rather unsafe ways, even into our adulthood. So my brother and I have ridden the Rainbow Trail here in Colorado, single track, mountain biking.
There you go, give it up for yourself.
Yeah.
You all built that trail, each and every one of you.
Yeah, and we survived it. Now,
Barely survived it, because
Now,
we did not know we were signing
in
up.
all honesty, he had just finished, what was it, like 3,000-mile ride?
300-mile ride.
From New York to Boston,
It
or
was
something,
the
I think
AIDS
AIDS ride or
ride.
something
Yeah,
like
New York
that.
to Boston.
And so he was bulky, he had just done this great big thing, and so we go down a mountain, and he's screaming, this is not fun.
Literally screaming out loud, this is not fun. This is not fun.
Because I guess dodging boulders
Because I
on
signed
a
up
single
for fun.
track.
My big
Yeah.
sister wants to take me
Yeah,
out.
and-
We're in Colorado. We're going to do a mountain bike, and we love adventure.
I
Not
forgot.
death, adventure.
I kind of forgot that we needed more than water.
So we ran out of food on the trail. We borrowed
Yeah.
food from strangers, which we're not
But
supposed
you
to do.
Coloradoans are really kind.
Generous people.
And some people stopped
Yeah.
and gave us goo. And
Oh, we got the outdoorsy people over there. They know about the
so
goo.
they gave us goo,
Yeah.
and we made it,
Yeah.
and he has lived.
Clearly, I'm still here.
We did whitewater rafting.
Mhm.
Was it the Arkansas? I think it was the Arkansas
We've done a
River.
couple of different-
The Royal Gorge. We did. He lived. So,
Yeah.
so all of the times that he
But is it despite her?
that I have not tried to kill my brother,
Yeah.
I just have a healthy sense of adventure.
Yeah.
So there you go.
The memory, there's the thing that I will share that not only you in the room don't know, but I think most people who know my sister
I'm
don't
just
know.
going to preface this with, I am a peaceful yogi.
So I have looked up to my sister forever. She basically helped raise me. And our mother was at work all the time. My sister and I would go on these bicycling adventures in DC, sledding into traffic and not dying. The way an older sibling should with their younger sibling. But I never feared. Honestly, this is all jokes about the dying thing. My sister never abused her power over me, really.
It was really nice to him.
And I have a memory of her strength, because I think of my sister as this badass person, and because she is. But I have a very specific memory of exiting my elementary school, and the school was at the top of the hill. It was maybe 6 blocks from our home. It was walking distance. And my sister was meeting me after school with my bicycle, but she was riding her bicycle and carrying mine with one hand as she pumped up the hill. And all my friends were like, what the f***? Who is that? And then when she went and did ROTC in college,
Army ROTC
Army
Rangers.
ROTC, yeah, that's the thing people don't know. She was really, I remember her telling me, she's really accurate with grenades. Exactly, that's the face I was looking for. Right? Miss service-oriented journalist, Miss Yogi, Miss is a killer.
I'm really good with zombie. I got you.
She is accurate with the crossbow, with the grenades. And so it's just this thing that solidifies the strength that I know you have, that sometimes other people get to see, but people don't know that story. And I'm just the biggest fan of yours, and I'm so glad you could do this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm hearing these stories about riding the Rainbow Trail, and then I recall in your book, Baratunde, talking about growing up in DC and all the tofu eating you did, all the hanging out at REI, and you had friends that owned a bike shop. It's like, wait a second, these guys belong in Colorado. So, we'd really love to have you. And I wanted to give you a few ideas on some communities that you could choose to live in if you ever want to relocate from New York and Lansing, respectively, okay? You ready?
Yeah.
And the audience, you can feel free to yell about any of these if you have suggestions or comments. No.
The thing is that our mother actually really loved Boulder.
But she loved the Boulder before.
She did love the Boulder before. She loved Naropa. She loved the Y of the Rockies, yeah.
Okay, Boulder's not on the list. But let's start with something. You know what? That prompts me to change the order. I'm going to start with something in Boulder County.
Okay.
All right? So option 1, Netherlands. This is a mountain community 30 minutes west of Boulder that features amazing views, great road biking, and Frozen Dead Guy Days. They're a multi-day celebration of a cryogenically frozen man kept in the town who was brought in frozen form to the United States by his Norwegian immigrant grandson. Netherlands.
I'm gonna pass one. Are you serious about the Frozen Dead Guy thing?
Yeah.
You said that no one reacted. So
It's for real. It's for real.
You guys just keep a dead guy on ice?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
healthier Colorado. Cool.
All right. Cool. So that's option 1. Okay.
Frozen Dead Guy. Got it.
Option 2. This might be my favorite. The San Luis Valley. So, this is a beautiful region in southern Colorado that features access to the Great Sand Dunes National Park, amazing red and green chili, and a park with an on-site hot spring that is home to alligators that you can pay to wrestle.
You have been to the alligators. Why do you have to ruin a hot spring with alligators? But I have been to the Great Sand Dunes with our mother.
What I'm trying to do is that, should you choose to move from New York and come here to Colorado, you wouldn't lose any of the sophistication. It's here. It's here.
All right.
All right. So, last, option 3, another awesome one. Fruta. Located in western Colorado, Fruta is an agricultural gem with famous peaches, a burgeoning wine industry, and an annual holiday known as Mike the Headless Chicken Day, which celebrates a chicken who had his head cut off in 1945, but somehow lived for another 4 years without a head. His name was Mike.
Was this a World War II chicken?
It
What's going on here?
We growing strong here.
Is this like a genetically modified war chicken?
So knowing what you know, what do you think? You have favorites? Are you just gonna go Boulder instead? What are you gonna do?
I'll go with the middle one, because
That was San Luis Valley.
San Luis Valley.
Yeah,
I like the great
yeah.
sand dunes. I have one of my favorite pictures of our mother is like her looking peaceful. You have sand dunes and full of mountains. It's like a sort of.
But what did the alligators ever do to you?
But I don't have to wrestle them. It was an opt-in.
That-
Right? He didn't say to enjoy the hot springs.
It's not a
You
requisite.
have to wrestle
Yeah.
an alligator.
Okay.
It's like you can pay extra money to do something you don't want to do.
Okay.
Which means I can save money. Like that's why I read that.
Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
I might have to go with the same town, because it sounds like the cryo dude is already dead, and the chicken is already headless.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nearly?
Yeah, I researched that when I first moved here.
So it's
So we need to
nearly
open that.
dead, still with a brain
So the
stem.
cranium is gone, but there's still the brainstem, and then so he lived for another few years.
Do we need to talk? I'm looking at the elected officials. You've knocked on a lot of doors. You know what's going on out here.
I think that I'm going to leave the dead or near dead alone and go with the sand dunes. Yeah.
Good choice. Good choice.
Thank
You
you.
can actually take a snowboard down those too. Seriously, you can.
Or
People do
cardboard
that.
box.
Or a cup.
Or
yeah,
course,
please.
yeah, wax it up. It'll be fun. Well, Baratunde and Belinda, I hope we've made a good impression. And you might want to come back. This has been lovely.
Check out this
I
podcast.
appreciate it. Check out the podcast.
Wooden
It's called Wooden Teeth, right?
Right.
Oh, you mean spit.
No, I'm talking about your
Oh,
podcast.
no.
I know about mine.
Thank you.
I'm trying to hook you up.
Wait, Baratunde, how many followers do you have on Twitter now?
230,000.
You're right. You're gonna tweet about my podcast tomorrow, right?
Let's talk about some rent subsidies in the gentrifying Colorado.
Tell you what. Let's go. I'm down. You know I'm down.
Table 4, attention, table 4. We got like 5 elected officials. Let's change the policy right now. We can caucus right now. Bipartisan, it's amazing. This is the best shot. Liquor them up, let's go. We're legislating tonight. Is this not the plan? Am I changing your plan?
No one's leaving yet. Baratunde and Belinda, thank you very much. Please give them a
Thank you.
hand.
Thank you, welcome to Colorado.
And now I think we're going to hear from my colleague, Kate Stigberg. Come on up.
We should leave. Oh, okay. No. Backup dancers.
All right. Well, thank you. It's hard to follow that. So, hi everyone. My name is Kate Stigberg. I am the Director of Activism here at Healthier Colorado. So part of my role at the organization is to head up our partnerships in local advocacy programs, which you heard a little bit about in that video.